quiet morning, a mug of coffee, and the sky shatters. One girl awakens where no one should. The sky broke at sunrise. Not metaphorically, not poetically. It split. Leora Morvain had stepped onto her apartment balcony with a mug of coffee and the quiet, unreasonable hope that turning 21 would feel different. Older, braver, certain. The city below her stirred awake in soft mechanical rhythm. Traffic murmured. A delivery truck hissed to a stop. Somewhere a dog barked once and fell silent. It was ordinary, comfortingly ordinary, until the clouds fractured. A thin seam of light carved across the horizon. Not lightning, not sunlight, something deliberate. The air changed, sound thinned, like the world had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. Her fingers tightened around the ceramic mug. The seam widened, and through it, she saw another sky. Violet, endless, threaded with faint silver fractures like cracks in polished glass. Beneath that sky rose white spires and curved towers, gleaming in dawn light that did not belong to Earth. Her breath left her in a whisper. The light moved. It found her balcony. Found her. It did not burn. It did not blind. It recognized. The mug slipped from her fingers and shattered on concrete. The light wrapped around her wrists like wind that had weight. The city disappeared. Gravity inverted, and Leora fell upward. She hit stone. Cold. Unforgiving. Sound rushed back all at once. Gasps. Layered voices. The echo of distant bells. She rolled onto her back and stared at a violet sky she had already seen once. It was real. Permanent dawn stretched across it in luminous gradients. She pushed herself upright slowly. She was in the center of a vast circular plaza, paved in white marble veined with gold. Hundreds of people surrounded her. Every wrist in sight glowed. Gold, crimson, blue, emerald. Intricate sigils pulsed beneath skin like living constellations. Murmurs rippled outward. Another tear. She's early. She doesn't. A figure stepped forward through the crowd. Tall. Dark uniform edged in silver filigree. A blade rested at his hip, its metal catching violet light. His posture was controlled. Military. His eyes were steel gray. Assessing. He stopped several paces from her. "Stand," he said evenly. The voice was calm, not cruel, not kind, commanding. She rose on unsteady legs. His gaze dropped to her wrist. She followed it. Her skin was bare. No glow, no sigil. The murmuring sharpened. "She's unmarked." "That's impossible." "They're never unmarked." The man stepped closer and took her wrist. Firm. Professional. He turned it toward the light. Nothing surfaced beneath her skin. No shimmer, no pulse. His jaw tightened. "Name," he said. Her throat felt dry. "Leora," she swallowed. "Leora Morvain." The crowd reacted, subtly. Not recognition, not fear. Something stranger. As if the name fit the air, but her wrist remained bare. The man released her slowly. "What happens to people who don't?" she asked, unable to stop herself. A woman somewhere behind him answered. "They destabilize." The word settled heavy in her chest. The man's voice carried across the plaza. "Until the council determines otherwise, she will remain under Crown Guard supervision." Protests erupted immediately. "She's a risk. She's unclaimed. She could fracture the grid." He did not raise his voice, but silence returned. "I will take responsibility." His gaze returned to her. "You will come with me." It wasn't a question, but it wasn't hostility either. She hesitated only a moment before placing her hand in his. The second their skin touched, the bells shattered into discordant noise. The violet sky flickered. A thin silver fracture etched across the horizon. The man stiffened. For the first time, he looked uncertain. The Crown Guard halls were carved from luminous white stone. Sigils were embedded into the architecture itself, glowing faintly along columns and archways. Magic hummed in the walls like restrained thunder. They walked in silence. Guards they passed stared openly at her bare wrist. Some narrowed their eyes. Others looked uneasy, as if standing too near her unsettled something they couldn't name. "What is this place?" she asked quietly. "Orlaith," he replied, "capital of the crown." His tone was controlled again, professional distance restored. She glanced at him. "And you are?" A beat. "Captain Caelan Ardyn." The name fit him. Precise, grounded. They entered a chamber lined with tall windows overlooking the city. At its center lay a circular platform carved with intricate geometric sigils. "Stand there," Caelan instructed. "If your mark is delayed, the sigil matrix may draw it forth." She stepped onto the circle. The carvings ignited in pale gold. Light rose around her boots, climbed her spine in harmonic vibration. For a brief, breathless second, she thought she felt something answer. Then, the glow recoiled, not dimmed, recoiled, like flame bending away from wind. The humming turned dissonant. A crack split through one of the wall sigils. Caelan crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her off the platform. The moment her foot left the circle, the chamber stabilized. Silence fell. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "I know." He was watching her differently now, not as a threat, as a question. "It withdrew," he murmured, as though encountering resistance. She moved toward the window. Outside, initiates sparred with glowing practice blades. One flare surged too bright, then softened abruptly as she stepped closer to the glass. Not extinguished. Regulated. Caelan saw it. He saw everything. "You're not destabilizing magic," he said slowly. "You're quieting it. That sounds good. It should not be possible." That night, whispers filled the city. The Unmarked, the bare wrist, the omen. Leora stood alone on a balcony overlooking Orlaith's endless towers. Permanent dawn painted the city in silver-violet hues. She felt it again. The hum beneath everything. The rhythm. It was strained, tightly wound, like a system forced to carry more than it was built for. Bootsteps approached. Caelan stopped beside her. Neither of them spoke immediately. "You're not what they expected," he said at last. "I wasn't planning to be summoned across dimensions today." A faint flicker of something almost resembling amusement touched his expression. It vanished quickly. "They fear what they cannot categorize." "And what do you fear, Captain?" The question hung between them. He did not answer right away. Instead, he studied the horizon. "I fear imbalance," he said quietly. "And you?" She looked down at her bare wrist. "I don't want to break your world." A pause. "You haven't," he said. The words were simple, but steady. A tremor rippled faintly through the air. Both of them felt it. Subtle. Deep. From beneath the city. Leora's skin prickled. The violet sky flickered once. Barely noticeable, but real. Caelan's gaze lifted sharply. "That wasn't you," he said. It wasn't a question. No. Far above Orlaith, a distant silver fracture shimmered once across the dawn-lit sky, then vanished. The hum of the city shifted. Not louder, not quieter. Waiting. Leora exhaled slowly. "This isn't over," she murmured. Caelan's eyes remained fixed on the horizon. "No," he agreed. "It's just beginning." And beneath her skin, a faint thread of light flickered for the first time. Alive. Unmarked. The thread did not glow brightly. It did not announce itself. It pulsed once beneath Leora Morvain's skin, and vanished. She froze. Caelan noticed immediately. "What is it?" She lifted her wrist slowly. For a moment there was nothing. Bare skin, still unmarked. Then, a whisper of silver shimmered just beneath the surface. Not a sigil. Not a symbol. A line, fine as silk. Alive. Caelan stepped closer, careful, as if approaching something sacred. "It isn't a mark," he said. "No." The word felt certain in her chest. The air shifted again. A tremor rolled faintly beneath the balcony. Not violent, but deeper than before. The city was reacting. By morning, the council had summoned them. The chamber of governance rose at the highest tier of Orlaith, its ceiling carved in spiraling constellations of light. Council members stood in a crescent formation, their sigils glowing with structured authority. Gold for governance, crimson for military command, blue for arcane oversight. They did not bow. They did not welcome. They assessed. The grid fluctuated twice during the night, one said. Localized to the Crown District. Another's gaze sharpened on Leora. Your arrival correlates with instability. Caelan's voice remained level. With respect, the fluctuations predate her thread manifestation. Murmurs. You admit it manifests. It does not resemble a mark, Caelan replied. Exactly, the counselor answered. Silence tightened across the chamber. Leora stepped forward. If you believe I'm destabilizing your system, test me. The boldness surprised even her. A pause. Then, very well. They led her to the central dais. A lattice of suspended sigil rings rotated slowly overhead. This was the heart of the mark grid, the control point. Stand within the alignment circle, a counselor instructed. Caelan's jaw tightened slightly, but he did not interfere. She stepped into position. The rings accelerated. Light poured downward in layered bands of gold and blue. The air thickened. Pressure built against her ribs. Her thread stirred, not in resistance, in response. The sigil light struck her and bent, not violently, not shattered. It curved around her like water flowing around stone. Gasps echoed across the chamber. The rotating rings faltered. Several sigils dimmed entirely. The hum of the grid shifted pitch. Lower, softer, balanced. The pressure eased. Leora inhaled sharply. She hadn't forced anything. She had simply allowed. The thread beneath her skin glowed faintly. The sigil rings slowed to a near stop. One counselor whispered hoarsely, "It's harmonizing." Another answered, "That's impossible." Caelan spoke quietly. "Is it?" Afterward, they retreated to the outer corridors. The council chamber doors sealed behind them. "You shouldn't have volunteered," Caelan said. "You would have stepped in." "Yes. And then they'd suspect you instead." A faint breath escaped him, almost a laugh. "You assume I care about suspicion." She met his gaze. "You care about this realm." A pause. He didn't deny it. They walked in silence through colonnades of white stone. Below, Orlaith shimmered in permanent dawn. "Tell me what you feel," he said finally. She closed her eyes briefly. "It's strained." "The grid?" "Yes. It's like a net pulled too tight." He absorbed that. "And your thread?" "It doesn't fight it." She hesitated. "It loosens it." The implications settled between them. If the marks were control, her thread was freedom, and freedom frightened institutions. That evening, the tremors returned, stronger. Across the city, sigils flared erratically. In one district, a mark overloaded, sending a surge of uncontrolled flame across a training courtyard. Guards rushed to contain it. Leora arrived with Caelan moments later. The air shimmered with unstable energy. "Stand back," a captain warned. Leora stepped forward instead. The surge twisted violently, then faltered as she approached. Her thread extended instinctively. Silver light unwound from beneath her skin. Not dramatic, not explosive, subtle. It touched the destabilized sigil. The flame softened, contracted, balanced. The overload dissolved into controlled heat. Silence fell. The training yard remained intact. No casualties. The guard stared at her, not with fear this time, with something closer to awe. Caelan watched her carefully. "You didn't suppress it," he said. "No." "You redirected it." "Yes." The distinction mattered. That night, Caelan unlocked a restricted archive chamber. Ancient texts lay preserved beneath protective wards. He removed one carefully. The parchment was brittle with age. Before the marks, the text began. Magic flowed unbound. Leora leaned closer. Illustrations depicted figures standing beneath fractured skies, threads of light flowing freely from their hands. They called them sovereigns, Caelan said quietly. "Rulers?" she asked. "Shapers." She studied the drawings. No sigils marked their wrists, no symbols defined them. They weren't controlled. No. Then why create the marks? He turned a page. The illustration changed, cities burning, skies splitting, reality fracturing under uncontrolled power. Because unstructured magic tore the world apart. She swallowed. So the grid is protection. And control, he added. The truth hovered between them. Necessary systems can become cages. Her thread pulsed faintly, silver against skin. If the fracture beneath the city is the original wound, she murmured, then the grid isn't the problem. It's the seal. Caelan finished. A low tremor rolled through the chamber. Dust fell from high stone arches. The fracture was stirring. And now, it was aware of her. They stood once more on the balcony overlooking Orlaith. The violet sky shimmered with faint silver veins. Caelan's voice was lower now, more personal. If the seal fails, it won't, she said softly. He looked at her. Certainty radiated from her, not arrogance, clarity. And if it does, she hesitated. Then we don't cage it again. He studied her carefully. What do we do instead? Her gaze lifted to the fractured horizon. We listen. A pause. Wind moved gently between them. His sigil glowed faintly at his wrist. When she stepped closer, it didn't flare. It didn't dim. It steadied, balanced. Neither of them mentioned it, but both felt it. Below the city, deep beneath marble and stone. The ancient fracture pulsed again, stronger, closer, waiting. And this time, it answered her thread. The tremor did not stop. It deepened. Not violent, not chaotic, measured. As if something vast beneath Orlaith had shifted in its sleep. Leora felt it before the bells rang. Her thread tightened beneath her skin. Silver light flickered once along her wrist. Caelan was already moving when the first alarm sounded. Not panic. Protocol. Vault breach, a guard shouted from the corridor. The words rippled outward like a dropped stone in still water. The sovereign vault, the myth beneath the city, the seal beneath the grid. Leora's breath steadied. It's waking, she said quietly. Caelan did not argue. He simply said, then we go to it. The descent beneath the crown was older than the city above it. Spiral staircases carved before the mark system, stone darker, unpolished, unadorned. As they moved downward, the hum of the grid faded. In its place, a different resonance. Raw, unfiltered, alive. Torches flickered erratically along the walls. Not extinguished. Responding. At the final archway, the air grew thin. Charged. The vault chamber stretched wide beneath a dome ceiling fractured with silver veins. At its center, the crystal column. Cracked. Light spilled from within it in steady pulses. Not explosive, intentional. The fracture inside the crystal had widened. Not large, but undeniable. Council members stood along the chamber perimeter, sigils blazing defensively. Military captains formed a protective ring. No one stepped closer, until Leora did. The silver light reacted instantly. A pulse rolled outward. Sigils flared violently in response. Several counselors staggered backward. She's triggering it, one snapped. No, Caelan said evenly. It's responding to her. The distinction mattered. Leora approached the crystal slowly. Her thread extended. Not as a weapon, an invitation. The fracture shimmered. Silver light pressed against the crystal barrier from within. She could feel it now. Consciousness. Not human. Not malicious. Broken. Divided. Lonely.